व्यक्तिहरूको जनताको प्रिय Production adversely affects each and every sector
any
of the
sort of
country.
ideology. Just is a great location for Nepal to explore its potential.
Namaste. Welcome to Nepal's Top 7 Debaters 2014, produced by Leadership Academy. This is the second competition round in the category for Grade 10, 11 and 12 English language. And the topic for today's competition is Nepal should invest in nuclear power. Let me now introduce our panel of judges for today's debate. Our first judge is Mr. Santosh Shah. He is the president of today's Youth Asia. Our second judge is Miss Sophie Lambert. She is the associate director at the Accountability Lab in Nepal. Our third judge is Mr. Freiheit. He is a Danish photographer and a documentary director. We will now begin with the debate.
There are many reasons why Nepal should not invest in nuclear power. The first reason why Nepal should not invest in nuclear power is because of the economic factor. Let me give you some data. According to the World Bank, the GDP of Nepal is around $19 billion, while the energy requirement in Nepal is roughly around 1,000 megawatts of electricity. Now, according to a report published, the cost needed to produce 1,000 megawatts of electricity using nuclear power is around $6 billion to $9 billion. Now, that is nearly half of national GDP. Is it feasible? Is it feasible in a country where 25% of the people live below the poverty line, a data given by the World Bank? Is it possible where people die daily due to lack of food, due to lack of medicine? It is not possible. Economically speaking, Nepal cannot afford nuclear power. The next reason why Nepal should not make or create nuclear power is because there is a better alternative, and that alternative is hydropower. Different researchers have shown that the total capacity of Nepal to produce electricity using hydropower is about 40,000 megawatts of electricity, 40 times the current need. And I'll give you another example. In the Upper Karnali hydropower plant, there was an investment of around $1 billion. And with the investment of $1 billion, there will be an investment of $1 billion. And with the investment of $1 billion, we are looking to create 900 megawatts of electricity. So on the one hand, we have nuclear power, which is about 6 to 9 times more expensive than hydropower. Hydropower is long-lasting. Hydropower is cleaner. The next thing I'd like to talk about is the fuel required in fuel required in nuclear power, as well as the manpowers needed to create nuclear power. You see, there's this assumption that Nepal has plenty of uranium, plenty of plutonium, but that's just an assumption. The fact is there is not a single uranium nor a single plutonium mine in Nepal, the fuel needed to create nuclear power. Another fact is Nepal does not possess enough manpower to create nuclear power. So what we see in Nepal is that there is a lack of manpower as well as fuel. So I'd like to conclude saying that Nepal does not have enough economy to invest in nuclear power. It does not have enough manpower, nor does it have enough fuel to invest in nuclear power. So Nepal should not invest in nuclear power. Thank you.
83,000 megawatts of electricity, the potential of Nepal's rivers and all the perennial rivers. Now we're here debating on whether Nepal should involve an investment in nuclear power, which is much more riskier and much more expensive and much more has many hazards to the entire ecosystem, not just the human health. Nepal is a nation which has got the potential to produce 83,000 megawatts of electricity, and as of the experts, 40,000 megawatts of electricity is feasible economically for our country. And this magnificent amount of electricity can fulfill the needs, fulfill the demands of the entire population. And it is eco-friendly. People argue that nuclear power does not have any side effects. Nuclear power does not create greenhouse gases, but what I argue is neither does hydropower electricity, which is the major source of electricity and energy in our nation. It also does not have any side effects to the environment. It is very eco-friendly and very sustainable, unlike other sources of energy like petroleum, other sources of energy like coals and fossil fuels, which we do not use. 90% of the commercial use of energy in our nation comes from hydroelectricity, provided that 60% of the total population today, they do not have the supply of electricity. But still, if we invest rather than in nuclear power in the hydroelectricity, we can produce electricity enough and in an adequate amount to fulfill the needs of the population as well as sell it to the other nations. even more, nuclear accidents have been prevalent in various parts of the nation, various parts of the world. In Japan, in Fukushima, in 2011, there was a nuclear accident. Even in Russia, there was another accident which created a radioactive explosion in the entire northern hemisphere, and which has devastated the environmental condition of the entire world. So this is very dangerous. So I would like to argue that Nepal should not involve in investment in nuclear energy. Thank you.
We all know that today Nepal is in energy crisis, a state where even the minimum requirements for energy is not met. And the solution for this might just be nuclear energy, because it is more reliable than what we are doing right now, which is the hydropower electricity, because it depends upon the natural factors such as the currents in the river. But whereas nuclear power does not depend upon any other sources, and it just needs to be shut down for maintenance and nothing else. And moreover, the amount of uranium required to produce energy from nuclear power is very low. And the statistics shows us that the reaction grade uranium can produce about 18 billion joules of energy, and just a normal uranium can produce about 200 million joules of energy per gram. And this is a lot of energy, and this is almost about 200 megawatts, and it is just given by a gram of uranium. And I don't think it will be so difficult for us to find a gram of uranium for such huge amount of energy. We also know that besides this technical side of the nuclear energy or nuclear power, we also can see that it provides energy stability to a country, which is very much necessary for the economic development and also the political stability in the country, because we have seen some examples in Nigeria where due to the fluctuations of price in fuel have become the reason for a political downfall, and also the economy has been affected severely. And because of this energy stability, a country does not need to depend on any other organizations like the IMF, which Nepal does for the fuels it is importing right now. So, and which will also eventually help us to grow our economy better. So I would like to say that Nepal should invest in nuclear energy. Thank you.
No, nuclear power is not the solution. It is risky, costly, and leaves a legacy of hazardous waste. According to Texas study, people living near to these plants are very much prone to various forms of cancer, even if the plant has an accident-free record. Now, the international press identifies Nepal as one of the countries least prepared for disaster management, posing a threat to the national security and an attractive site for the terrorists. According to WWF, the Chernobyl disaster forced evacuation and resettlement of 4 lakh people. The 3 Mile Island disaster that happened, it triggered a cleanup action plan that lasted for 15 years. Now, let us consider an example. In Finland, a new generation power plant was established, which is now facing numerous problems with cost overrun of 25% of $4 billion budget. Now, I believe the subsidies provided could have been much better utilized in providing clean and safe energy like hydel and wind power do. They would have also benefited the local communities. In Nepal, we think like 1,000 times before investing in wind power, solar power or hydel power. Then how can we even go on the imagination of building a nuclear power plant? According to Reuters, the NRC chairman Gregory Jagsko cast an extraordinary dissenting vote when it came to building of a nuclear power plant in US in 30 years, saying he cannot neglect the fact of Fukushima. Now we are all aware of the cases of Fukushima, the 3 Mile Island and the Chernobyl. These are the flagship cases. All could have been avoided, but for mismanagement, corruption, corruption, secrecy, and profiteering. Now, all these terms are to be kept in mind when we are talking of a nation like ours. I conclude by saying that Nepal should rather invest and harness what it really is blessed with, rather than going on something that is really far-fetched, like building of a nuclear plant. Thank you.
In today's competition round, two debaters selected from the previous rounds, Shivani Mishra and Ayusha Adhikari, backed out. Now, we will continue with Nepal's top 7 debaters after a break. Welcome back. You are watching Nepal's Top 7 Debaters 2014. Now, may I request the participants to come up on stage, and I request the judges for their comments.
Today's debate was not engaging. It's a topic that can engage any audience in any country. Right? It's a global debate. It's not a very difficult topic at all. But as a judge, I was very disoriented because the contents were not clear. It was like listening to an essay or a public speaking, and that too you have mocked up. So when you have mocked up, it becomes very difficult when you're nervous, because it kind of holds you back.
I think that you all did a really great job despite some of the criticisms. I think that it's important to show that you've done a lot of research and to really cite the sources of the information that you found. And I've found that the most powerful speeches so far covered statistics, and I think that it's also important that you don't pause and like you're recollecting a script, but just keep going and try to really engage the audience, like Santosh was saying. But overall, well done.
I think you did very well, all of you. I think it's impressing. It impressed me that youngsters like you're concerned about a topic like nuclear energy. I mean, in Denmark, the youth of your age, they are mostly watching X Factor, and they don't get involved in political issues like this. So I think that you did very well. I'm impressed. I think that you could maybe have talked a bit more about the risks of earthquakes in Nepal, because there is a history of that, and everybody's like fearing the next one. You have a history with Bhaktapur in '34, and that I would have liked to have that as part of your argumentation. And I think that the human risks are also a very important factor when you talk about nuclear energy, because when we look at Chernobyl in '86 and Fukushima in 2011, 10,000s, if not 100,000s of people have lost their homes and have been evacuated. And we still have around 100,000 people in Fukushima who can't go back because the government fear the consequences. So there are some consequences of nuclear power that I would have liked to hear more about. But overall, I think you did very well.
Now we have the rebuttal round.
There are two things that have been said by my opponents that I completely disagree with. First of all, there was a saying that nuclear power is an investment for the future. Well, it's kind of an oxymoron, because every investment is for the future. See, when we talk about nuclear power being an investment for the future, so is hydropower. If we invest in the hydropower, we get electricity for eons to come. What I'm trying to say is that whenever we invest in something, we do it for the future. And another thing that I'd like to comment on is that we cannot invest for the future right now when we don't have the investment for today. We need to invest for today first, and then can we think about the future. Let's first of all make sure that our present is good enough, then let's think about the future. Now the second point is the reliability of all other forms of energy. You see, my opponents almost stated that all other forms of energy are not reliable enough. They are reliable enough. We get electricity today, not enough because we don't have enough hydropower stations, but we still get electricity today because of those hydropower stations. What that shows is that hydropower stations are reliable if there are enough. So with this, I'd like to end my rebuttal. Thank you.
Now the proposition speaker of the debate mentioned that uranium was cheap cheap, and uranium, a small amount of uranium can give a lot of energy. But what I would like to argue in this debate, it is in the context of Nepal, and though uranium is cheap, water is free. So why should we waste money on uranium when water, which is very swift flowing in our country, is already free? Another point I would like to talk about is stability. He mentioned that nuclear power is the most stable, while hydroelectricity, it is dependent on factors such as climate, factors such as the rainfall, but there is a thing called storage projects. So we can store electricity that is gained from hydroelectricity, and this can be used for a future purpose if there is a climate change or there is a scarcity of rainfall in the nation. Thank you.
The opposition participant stated that hydroelectricity in the context of Nepal is reliable, but he fails to realize the many projects where they have not been able to to produce the maximum capacity of the caliber of the project because there has not been enough rain or not enough fast flowing, not enough current of the river. And he also stated about the storage project, which I think is not still dead in our country, and it cannot be considered an alternative because we have nuclear power which we can invest on, and it is more reliable. And I would like to say that unlike the hydropower project, it does not depend on any climatic factors, and it just needs to be stopped for maintenance. That's it. So more energy in a very less more energy and in very less amount of money that we have So I think nuclear energy is better. Thank you.
My worthy opponent just stated that lack of rain can be a cause that hydropower do not work properly. But I would like to tell that uranium, it is depleting with each year, and with each successive plant, the cost of uranium will always rise. And with the depletion of uranium, we cannot really expect Nepal to invest in it. Moreover, he said that the nuclear power plants do not depend on the climatic factors. Well, my worthy opponent, I would like to tell you that it only depends on the climatic factors, because now if there is any disaster like tsunami or anything else like in Nepal, it is the 11th it is the country which ranks 11th globally when it comes to highest earthquake prone areas, and if such a calamity occurs, what will happen, we all can imagine it very well. And moreover, he said that okay, that's it. I would like to end my rebuttal.
May I request the participants to come up on stage, and I request the judges for the further comments.
Well, the good news for you all today is there's going to be no elimination, because two of our debaters, Shivani Misra and Ayusha Adhikari, backed out for this competition. And it's kind of sad to lose them, because I judged them last time. They both are very good debaters, and I'm sure they could have, if they tried, they could have made it to the semi-final round. So that's saying I have to provide something today. So for the first time in 2014, I'm going to give you the ranks. We all judges have agreed that Tanvi Agrawal was the best in today's debate, whereas last time Tanvi, you struggled. It's a very good improvement. Ruchit Shrestha, we have ranked you second, and the major reason is your rebuttal was very good. Your first presentation, you struggled. And third is Prasanna Jang Thapa. You're very good with the first competition, but in the rebuttal, you really slowed down in your pace, in your presentation, in your content. So you have to try to balance. Because if you go to the final, there will be 4 rounds. So you could do the first one, then if you miss the next 3 ones. And then Srijan, you were the 4th today. You really have to work very hard. Next competition is going to be very tough. So you really have to work very hard. It's a good thing you're in the semi-final. It's a very deciding next competition. If whoever makes it, it'll be countries first and second. So right now it's 2 countries on top 4, so that's not that bad. But you really have to work very hard for the next time. All the best.
If you are a student studying between grade 7 and bachelor's level, you can apply for Nepal's Top 7 Young Poets 2014. Application submissions are open now. We invite you to participate in the various alternative education programs run by Leadership Academy. You can call our office at 425-7250 or 980-203-2195 or email us at youthtya@gmail.com. We will be back next week with a new topic. Have a nice week. Namaste.